Gary's obviously doing a little bit more than that.
I'm throwing a dart at this. So, Gary, if I've done this wrong, he'd be over $1 million for sure.
Million turnover.
Easily, yeah.
And that's why I want to
have 3 or 4 guys working for him.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, these days, 1 in 3 houses have asbestos in Australia. So we're one of the biggest users. Now, WorkSafe, if you're going to remove half a bathroom, remove the whole bathroom. You know, they want it gone.
All right, Sam, so you're the representative for Hazmat. So we've been doing all these different divisional long-form podcast profiles, and I think we interviewed Sean, which is a franchisee, and I think people were blown away by how well he done in the first 12 months with the money that can be done in the division. So first of all, let's talk about first what the division actually does and all the services provide before we get into sort of the franchising side of it.
Yeah, well, the division came about with asbestos removal because the gym's building inspection division did a lot of asbestos testing, and I think customers to gyms have a loyalty to gyms, which is a fantastic thing, and they were asking us to remove it all the time. So the division started with some licensed asbestos removalists, and then over time, the same sort of concept of controlling an environment became part of us, and we made ourselves gyms hazmat removal because we got into mould remediation and mould cleaning and really hazardous mould projects. You know, the gyms cleaners can clean a bit of mould, but we do that real hazardous stuff. And from there, that moved into flood mitigation and flood damage. And, you know, not for the faint-hearted, but crime scene, biohazard type stuff, and methamphetamine decontamination. So it's quite a range of services, but it all involves around controlling an environment. So that's where, with asbestos removals, it was quite easy to bring them into that. And now we have people from the mould remediation industry sort of coming across as well. So it's quite a vast range of services.
Absolutely. And what's the size of the division currently? How many franchisees is in there?
We're at about 30. So we're still in the early stages of a division. We've got Gary up in Brisbane that's taken on the division, which has been absolutely brilliant. Really set up the support of franchisees in terms of weekly communication, and you can really see them thriving in that. And we've got a couple of smart marketing guys in there getting us around on social media. So, yeah, it's been a real turning point in the last sort of 6 months. And, really confident that anyone wants to come across and look at this industry, we could definitely be for them.
And who can do it then? So do you have to be qualified in anything, or what sort of the training process, or how, if someone likes to send it, like what should they be asking themselves in terms of some questions? Yeah,
it's a range of people. We can train you from scratch. To be licensed in asbestos removal work, it's a licensed trade, so obviously that takes a little bit of time, but you can still remove asbestos with a licensed operator behind you. So you can be trained from scratch, but we get people from the industry in as well. And an interesting part about mould at the moment is that it's becoming an Australian standard, whereas we used to use the American standard. And with that, could potentially mould remediation could become a trade, like a chippy or a painter or a carpenter. So that's a great opportunity for people who want to get into a trade sort of relatively quickly. And it really solidifies the service. And, you know, with anything, if you have a standard, then everyone follows that, and it makes the service more valuable.
I was going to say as well, because I interviewed franchisee Sean, which people can watch on the podcast, and he came from an Audi manager. And now all of a sudden he's come into this and he's being fully trained, but he's also being able to do other modules and do other things, which is going to enable him to do other sort of services within the division. So it sounds like it's a division where you can get trained in a couple of things, but you can also keep adding on to it as you want to go.
Yeah, we've had guys come out of working in a chemical factory. So he knew the chemicals we used, but wanted to actually do it himself. So, yeah, there's a range of people that get involved. Guys out of retail, guys that just want to work outside. And, you know, unfortunate for us, but unfortunate for others, weather events that are happening now, they can see there's an opportunity in it because, you know, if the rain's up in Queensland, different climate change, things that are happening has produced more work for us, to be honest. So
yeah, I was going to, like storms. I remember I interviewed one of the franchisees with the Lismore floods, unfortunately, a couple of years ago. Obviously, it's an unfortunate event, but there's a lot of work for people when those sorts of things happen.
Yeah, and more people are now concerned about the health of their home. Mould is taken more seriously in other countries, but nowadays it's starting to become more and more of a thing. So asbestos, mould, the methamphetamine conditions that people are worried about has produced more work for us.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that is a big thing, with people being way more health conscious and like things like, you know, plastics and food and all that sort of stuff. Yep. I think this one, for me, when I heard I've interviewed a few franchisees in this division. I think every rental house, they're saying some stats about one in, I don't know if it was 4 or 5 a drug, someone's smoked drugs or something in there, which can get into the walls. And there's obviously, if you've got kids with asthma or something like that, it can be very, very harmful.
Well, it's a surface chemical, so kids crawling along on carpet and things like that can cause some issues. And the way everyone goes, oh, it's old houses that are mouldy, but it's the way modern houses are built. They're all about energy efficiency. So they were building the property shut, no ventilation. So they were relying on mechanical ventilation. So the old houses that I used to grow up, well, you're pretty young, but...
I'm getting old now.
Yeah, subfloors and all that sort of stuff created really good ventilation, but these days they're sealing them shut. So you get renters that keep everything shut, don't turn on the chemical ventilation, and then we have more and more issues with it.
I can just imagine, all the apartments and stuff as well, with people, and then who comes through those apartments as well. If you're a landlord or something like that, it just sounds like a no-brainer every time you get a new tenant. Just to do that from a health reasons, that sounds like it's something you'd have to test for, or at least get some advice on it.
Yeah, and there's more tenancy laws about meth testing's part of it. Smoke alarms and everything like that. But if they ever say the word mould, straight in, they've got to do something about it.
Yeah.
And you can clean mould, but it comes back, or you can remediate it. Is what we actually do.
Okay. So do you want to just talk for the layperson what does remediation mean? So they might hear the word and they might sort of get an idea, but do you want to just actually talk about that service in detail?
So, bleaching or just cleaning mould just takes away the look of it. Okay, mould spores still live there. So you've got to starve spores. So you've got to take the moisture away. So it includes equipment where we dry out the home and then we take the mould away. And even then, if we don't conceal or control the environment, the spores are thirsty, so then they drift off and look somewhere else. So if you're drying out somewhere and you're not doing it correctly, you can actually cause a bigger problem because the spores can get around the house. So if you don't do it properly, it's going to come back. And there are a lot of companies out there that do a quick mould clean, and some landlords just want the problem to go away straight away, but it comes back 12 months later.
Right.
So we can do that service if you want it, but we know to really do it properly is the remediation side of it. So if there's been an event like a broken pipe or a rain or natural, the class of the water goes into, something you can't drink or those sort of things. The content of that flood water can cause mould within 48 hours. So you need to get onto it straight away.
I was going to say as well, so then what's the process for it? So you come in and obviously the remediation side of it, is it something where you identify it and you advise that to the client and it's up to them to do it and then you come and do what you need to? What's the time frames?
Yeah, we give them a mould report and plan about what we want to do. And it's pretty obvious to us, but the customer's got to know the process because, hopefully for the customer, they don't have to deal with this every day. So it's something new to them. And we've got to explain the reason why we're doing everything. And then once we dry out that area, we come through and do the clean. And in some situations, we need a hygienist to sign off on it in some scenarios. Other scenarios where it's a private job, they might just decide to do that. But if it becomes an insurance claim or something like that, we have hygienists that come in and test and make sure that the levels are at a safe level for the customer.
Okay.
And so there's a bit involved.
Absolutely. I was going to say then as well, you mentioned meth earlier. So what's the process for that? Obviously, if people are smoking whatever in their house and obviously get stuck into the walls, that sticky residue, and it can be on the floors and that, how do you guys tackle that problem?
So Jim's building inspections do the meth testing, but also the Hazmat guys can do as well. So whoever you speak to, it's fine. They get what's called stencils around the house, and there's obviously problem areas where they test for it. And that's a yes or no answer. If it is a yes, they do further testing to get a level. And there's a certain level in Australia that's okay. And then above that is where it deserves some remediation and some decontamination. So it could be, but porous surfaces like carpet and that pretty much are hard to get back.
Right.
But a plasterboard wall, you've probably got a good chance of getting it back. But if it's that indented into the wall, they're removing the plasterboard, so it can get pretty expensive. Yeah.
Okay.
But the actual, it's quite a new service. So I've noticed over the years it's got better in terms of salvaging you know, salvaging the house and salvaging its fixtures and fittings. And it's a lot more practical now to get a meth clean and not be a complete disaster.
I was going to say, well, what are the health? I'm not a doctor or anything, but like, what's the sort of the health? Because you mentioned like a young child, obviously putting their hands on the wall and then maybe putting their hands in their mouth and stuff. And what's the actual, and also the liability maybe to the landlord? You mentioned some standard stuff before. Is that something where if they don't take care of it, it can cause them issues? Or
yeah, well, it's a law now.
Right.
Tendency, you've got to act on it straight away. But it's a surface-based issue, so it doesn't float in the air. But if it touches on your skin, you know, it's irritable and that sort of thing. But kids can actually have like effects like a meth user can have. Like, and I don't want to go into too much detail there because I don't want to say the wrong thing. But there's arguments to and fro in the medical industry about how much effects it does have. But there's people that have definitely had serious effects from the methamphetamine being exposed to those chemicals. They're pretty harsh. And if there was a lab in a house, that's even worse because, you know, the raw chemicals, but even smoking can cause those issues. Yeah. And mould needs to be taken more seriously of the health issues that mould can throw at people.
Well, do you think people underestimate the mould? Because there's a lot of people who live in rentals and stuff and they probably notice mould in the corner and don't tell anyone or leave it, and they don't understand the damage to them.
Yeah, I absolutely think people underestimate it. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from experience myself, I was a chronic asthmatic when I was a kid, but worked out that it was environmental asthmatic because my parents bought a house, the asthma went away, and we were living in a rental in Melbourne. And it's funny, when I took on the Hazmat, Mum goes, oh, yeah, that was right. You had a lot of asthma in Melbourne. There was heaps of mould, you know, and I'm thinking about it. And like my vision came back to when we were there, and the house was, you know, mouldy as hell. And so, like, I reckon I had those effects. But, yeah, there's arguments to and fro. It's kind of one of those things that is up in the air. But I'm a believer that it absolutely has serious health risks.
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, environmental effects of these sort of, you know, afflictions are pretty bad, you know. And it can be, you know, due to the way the house is built. And that sort of energy efficiency type housing has actually caused some issues.
It's one of those things where, like, people might live in a house and they might go, I'm a vegetarian, I'm going to eat healthy or whatever, and then you got mould in the corner which you don't address, so you've got to...
counteracting what you're trying to do.
Which one is it? So I think if you are health conscious or you're conscious of that sort of stuff, I think it's a no-brainer when you to get you guys out there just to at least look at things and do the testing.
When we do our induction training with our franchisees too, we're very careful about the service we're providing. We don't want to become alarmists or overcook a situation. You know, we're very conscious of the customer's needs, not to freak them out with, you know, ridiculous, you know, health risks and all those sort of things. Mould affects people differently, so we're very conscious of that fact. There's some companies out there that try to turn it into a witch hunt of, you know, what mould's going to do. It's going to kill them if they don't get them around there today. We're definitely not like that.
I'm glad you raised that because I can presume that'd be a really easy tactic that people and these people could do if they say, oh, you definitely had a meth lab in that house or something like that, just to alarm people. So
or walk in with a big suit just before you do it.
Oh, really? Right.
Oh, yeah, there's all that sort of stuff that goes on.
So the big white suit they wore.
Yeah, with the big, you know.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, no, we're definitely aware of that. Yeah. You know, there are companies out there that are a little bit like that, and we don't want to be that way at all. Yeah. You know.
And I was going to say as well, you mentioned the division was originally called asbestos removal.
Jim's asbestos removal.
Yeah, so let's talk about the asbestos side. Is obviously building inspections. You're involved in that division as well, so you can talk about it. So how does it work? First of all, with the JBI guys, and then obviously the actual asbestos side of it. How does it all work?
Yeah, so building inspections, we can be competent asbestos assessors, and I'll clarify that we're not hygienists by any stretch of the imagination, but we can test B-class non-friable asbestos, and we can do clearances for those. But the A-class friable asbestos is hygienists that take care of that, so I'll clarify that. But a lot of people, when they're buying a home, are thinking about renovating it, so we were doing a lot of testing for them.
Yep.
And competent B-class removalists, we wanted to make sure, you know, it's always that frightening thing when you refer someone, you're hoping they're going to do a good job, you know, so being involved in the group, they're sort of accountable for us, if you know what I mean. So by referring a separate company being Jim's Asbestos Removal, which are competent licensed asbestos removalists. We've found customers are getting us from start to finish, and they appreciate that because the guy testing the asbestos is the guy that's doing the clearance at the end to make sure it's been done correctly. So it was a really neat sort of synergy there.
Can you talk about the actual job itself? So let's say, for example, sampling's done. All right, cool. There is asbestos there. Then Hazmat gets involved and they make an assessment. Like, then is it a process? Do they just give the option to the customer saying, we recommend you remove it, but it's up to you whether you do it or not? Or what does that sort of look like?
Yeah, so look, pretty much, I mean, these days, 1 in 3 houses have asbestos in Australia. Right. So we're one of the biggest users. So when now WorkSafe want you to, if you're going to remove half a bathroom, remove the whole bathroom. You know, they want it gone. You know what I mean? So if we've recommended removal in I keep saying A-class, when a B-class removals quotes to remove it, they put that scope through to WorkSafe and notify them, and then 5-day turnaround, we remove the asbestos. Hazmat remove the asbestos. So we follow all the guidelines, the right scope for the clearance and the removal, and you get it done correctly. It's the only way to do it. So these days, they're about they want to get rid of asbestos. They don't want you just removing bits and pieces here and there. So it's a lot more tighter in terms of its rules, which is the right thing to do. You know, so our guys get in there, give WorkSafe notification, then they go and remove it. Unless a kid's kicked the footy through the wall, and we need it removed today, they can do an emergency where they remove everything and we come through and do the clearance.
Just out of interest, how does it get removed? Like, do they have to wear a suit on? And do they put it? Like, how do you dispose of it as well?
Yeah. So B-class removal is they can remove it in the open, but they control the environment. So they control the environment with plastic and all that sort of stuff. A-class is decontamination showers, and it's in a bubble with air monitoring, and hygienists is there checking that everything's been removed. Yeah, that's full on. And we do have A-class guys that do that. But B-class is material that's friable, so it's held together, okay? Non-friable. So if they remove that, they put it into double-bagged into a vehicle, which is a approved licensed vehicle to remove asbestos, and then it's taken to an asbestos tip, so they take it through. So the guy that comes back to do the clearance is checking the area, looking at the load area, all outside, making sure everything was removed correctly. And the biggest part about it is they wet it down, so they use a glue and water to stop the fibres spreading. So there's a lot of process behind it. They've got to notify neighbours on the day.
Yeah.
And the clearance is for people to re-inhabit the site. So no one's allowed in the area until it's removed. So it's a bit of a process. And we try to remove everything sort of in one day so that customers can get back to their home.
Now, does that mainly come up, is this service mainly involved when someone wants to renovate or thinking about renovating, they get this done, or which stage did people get involved with?
Yeah, well, I've had some hairy experiences. Most of the time it's renovation, or when husband's halfway through a bathroom renovation, the wife goes, that could be asbestos, and we've come in to test it. That's not a nice experience because he freaks out, and you know, they may have kids in the house and things like that. So you've got to be really careful. Like, just get it tested. Any sort of wet area, asbestos is great for heat and encapsulation, and wet areas basically. So that's why your eaves are asbestos, or your bathroom, around your bathrooms asbestos, or flooring and those sort of things. So if you're in any of those areas, just get it tested. It's pretty cheap to get an asbestos report from one of the building inspection guys. Or if most asbestos removers can take a quick test as well.
Yeah.
But getting a full report. And a lot of what has really probably saved people's lives is tradies sort of my age and younger, sort of under 40, know what asbestos is now and don't muck around. So if they come out to quote a job, I'd like you to get it tested first.
Yeah.
You know, so sparkies and painters and chippies and that, they don't muck around now.
Yeah.
Whereas the older blokes used to, I'll nip it out, you know. So, you know, and I'm glad I wasn't part of that generation, you know. So, because it's not something you know about now. It's 30 years when you find out that you've done something wrong.
And I was going to say as well, you mentioned before trauma or crime. So what does that look like, and what are some of those?
So we get into mould. That's a biohazard.
Yep.
So once you get into biohazard, you can move into the human thing. So crime scenes where, an accident's happened, someone's cut themselves or unfortunately someone's passed away, they remove the body. We're not there at that point. But we clean it up after that.
Yeah.
And that's, you're dealing with human sort of hazards and, we need to... Fluids and all that. You've got to clean it right.
Yeah.
Biohazard might be in a hospital. If someone dies in a medical room, they move the body out and then that needs to be cleaned. So there's things like that. Biohazard moved into hoarding. So if, someone's grandmother's passed away, she turned into a hoarder. So we do the hoarder cleans where we clean the whole house out and do all those sort of things as well. So
I'm glad you mentioned.
How many
I'm glad you mentioned that
there are.
because I interviewed Sean and he mentioned about the hoarder clean and I didn't even know we did that. So it's interesting to hear. So that's obviously quite common. I would say it'd be quite.
It took my breath away how much that goes on. I probably haven't experienced that with family or anything yet. Yeah. But happens a lot, and we use other gym services a lot for that. We use cleaning, even gyms blinds because we've had the blinds had wrecked, and if they want to clean the place up, we use a lot of the other gym services as well, which is good. But because at that time, when the young sons and daughters of the lady or husband or their dad or something, they're dealing with a lot of grief and other things, we can actually get in there and clean all that and take that issue away from them.
Yeah, no, it's great you mentioned that because obviously we do the Space Invaders stuff and that's all about hoarders as well, and they get a lot of gyms franchisees in, and there's a lot of gyms franchisees who can help with that sort of stuff. So and a trusted company which can help with that stuff as well, because I think a lot of people don't want to deal with that or think about that stuff, but when it's time to, when it happens, at least we've got a solution where we can pretty much do the full range of things. I don't think many other companies can do that.
No, and I don't think there's many customers that would want to do any of the services.
No,
they're pretty happy for us to do it.
Yeah. And it just makes it a lot easier as well. But I was going to say as well, what other services under Hazmat have people been doing? Is there any sort of jobs you can talk about besides the one we've spoken about?
A top service is probably the hoarding, biohazard, syringe cleanups, and things like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so syringe cleanups. Biohazard can move into, in churches where they've got pigeons that just fly through the joint and, cause some damage.
Okay.
That's really, really toxic, that kind of type of stuff. That is full on. We've got to be really masked up and PPE'd for that. So, it's amazing where it takes you. And we've got contracts with hospitals and building insurance companies. There are a lot of body corporates and that sort of stuff that we pass on work to our franchisees. But a lead for a franchisee in Hazmat, which I've noticed different to other divisions I've been involved in, can turn into, a life's work. We've had a lead where Alfred Hospital have called, and the franchisee has picked that up and away he's gone, and so that the local area marketing aspect of it for franchisees, we're trying to build on with these guys because there's huge opportunities in it.
Let's talk about then the marketing side of it. So how does work generated? Good to talk to you because you obviously talk about the local area marketing and marketing side of the business as well. So the question might be from people all the time, well, how do I generate work? Do I have to generate my own leads, or how does that sort of work in the system? So that you're the best person to talk to.
Well, I'm a big advocate of generating your own leads because you don't pay for them with gyms in terms of referral. So there's no percentage taking out of your income or anything like that. So, I've got 61 franchisees now and I'd have at least 20 that don't take leads anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not through my efforts, well, a little bit of me, but mostly them. Hazmat opportunities. There are guys with massive contracts, guys who've got Telstra contracts and hospital contracts and things like that. So never take a lead as just a job. Think about what it can do for you. So a very simple thing, if we get a mould remediation job where there's been an event or an issue with the house and the client turns around and says, I believe this is an insurance claim, we give them a bit of a hand with that.
Yeah.
And if they're happy with us, we ask them to tell the insurer to be our preferred contractor. So we get the preferred contract, we do the job, and then the insurance company knows who we are. So then they start using that franchisee for their jobs. So there can be insurance builder type work from one lead. But property managers are probably a big thing for us.
Yep.
Anyone in and around property and tradesmen, of course, builders, demolition companies, developers and that sort of stuff. And yeah, you never know where it sort of takes you.
Well, how's the brand been growing? Because for me, like if you said to me, right, name like out of the blue, if it wasn't with Jim's, name a company who does this, I wouldn't know where to look. Whereas I think now are people becoming they know that Jim's is doing this and they're becoming more aware about this.
Yeah, it's been a slow burn, but I can see now. I mentioned Gary and the team up in Brisbane. Gary was a franchisee in Brisbane. Probably when we started the division, it was me and Paul who hadn't done hazmat work before and tried to sort of find our way, which worked to an extent. But Gary has been a franchisee who's made a franchise hugely successful. I mean, if you go to his operation up there, it's very impressive. And I think now he's, given that gold to all the franchisees, and you can see the work he's doing only in the past few months really improved. So, his and my as franchisors' focus is to teach the franchisees how to fish. We think that's where it's at. And I think if we get more franchisees doing that, the leads come because there's more cars driving around the road. They're exposed to more business-to-business relationships. And that's our focus at the moment. And I can see it happening. We've also got Josh in there who's doing a great job with the social media side of things. Probably something we didn't do excellently before then. And there's a lot of topics to talk about with Hazmat. It's pretty interesting stuff, you know. I mean, we're not going to put photos of dead bodies up there, but, it's a conversation starter. There are people that are genuinely, what is mould and how can it affect me and what should I be doing? So there's heaps of articles and things we could talk about to promote us and help the general public. I mean, you're the man to talk about that, but you don't just go, give me a job on social media. You give some content to talk about what it's about. And it's an interesting subject.
Well, I've seen occasionally on 7 News, you'll see a story about this asbestos stuff and it sort of goes away. And I think slowly, people are becoming more aware of it. And I think definitely more people are health conscious and they're concerned about microplastics and things like that. With me, it's like, well, if you're concerned about microplastics, you should be concerned about, if you're renting especially, what was going on in your home before and what's in there. And I think it's slowly working. But I was going to say, as an example, for Gary's probably a great story because he started as a franchisee and you mentioned you've seen his operation, he's built it up. And this is what I love to talk about the gym system is about, just because you're a franchisee doesn't mean you're restricted into what you can do and all these sorts of things. You want to actually maybe talk about that side of it, how he's come in as a franchisee and how he's developed his business and what he's been able to do with it.
Yeah, well, Gary came in, division's down in Victoria, so, he gets some support from us, but on the ground he just got to work, and he's an interesting guy. He's had businesses and car washes and all sorts of different things. He knows how to build a business up, but he's just taken our services and just run with it, on his own vision, and then turned around and said, I want to... He passionately... Genuinely, he likes $1, there's no question about that, but he genuinely wants to see franchisees succeed as he has. You can absolutely tell. And if I go up to Queensland, I'm flying up there tomorrow, the culture of the Queensland guys is unreal.
How big is his business? Like, do you want to just, rough dollar figures, because we want to sort of try and inspire people. Now, Sean, you can look up. So Sean, if anyone's watching this, you want to hear from Sean, we put on there, I think, $250K he generated in his first year revenue, which is fantastic. So Gary's obviously doing a little bit more than that.
I'm trying to dart at this. So Gary, if I've done this wrong, he'd be over $1 million for sure.
Million turnover.
Easily,
And that's why I want to
get 3 or 4 guys working for him. He's got a factory with an office staff. He's got other ideas about how to. He's got equipment wall to wall. You can tell that he must do massive jobs, and I'm starting to get to know the operation he's got. And a franchisee could absolutely do that. With mould remediation and that sort of stuff, it's building up your equipment, because you can have a mould job going where you're charging day rate for the machine. You're not there and you're doing another job. So you can scale up your business where it's not just all your labour. Labour, we can't buy more time, but it can scale up by equipment and that sort of thing. And I've seen him do that. Also, we're about at Hazmat, the insurance industry is there's a lot going on at the moment. There's big claims, premiums are going up. So he's finding ways to get people back in their homes quicker.
Right.
So one thing, we're asbestos removals and mould. So if a flood event happens and a mould remediator goes in, that's asbestos, walks away, they spend another couple of days in the hotel. We go in there, emergency, remove the asbestos, dry out the area, we're actioning it straight away, we're making it safe straight away. But he's got other ways where he can actually, while they're waiting on the claims to go through, maintain the home at a level that people can live in there. So he's got some technology that he's working on at the moment with fogging and those sort of things, which is unreal. He's working on a new service in air conditioning systems with the purifying the air that's coming through. Silica dust is another thing that we're looking into.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, their ideas, it's all, we're all bracing for what they're doing, but I can see the future of Jim's Hazmat in really good hands at the moment.
And there's this stuff, did he have a background in doing that prior, or he had a business background, but this is sort of stuff he's learned and he's trained himself in? Or
Look, I'm getting to know Gary more and more, but industrial painter originally, but then had the car washes, as I said, wanted to change and saw the opportunity in Hazmat and ran with it. And probably, when me and Paul started the business, he was probably our vision of what a franchisee would do, but he's done it and now he's taken the reins. And it's a testament to Jim's group as a whole. I reckon a lot of the top divisionals in gyms and top franchisors have been franchisees that have been successful.
Most of them,
And he's an A-grader in that respect.
Well, I love hearing that because we do a lot of franchising content, and a lot of people want to do the QSR, which is a quick service restaurant, $300,000, $400,000 down, and then you look at the ROI. Whereas I think your business, I think Sean was saying for everything was like 75, 85.
Yeah.
And then you can have $1 million revenue business with free staff, which I think is a great point for any business to be. And you're paying a flat fee, which is not that much compared to and people have it in their head, I need to get the quick service restaurant and this and that. Whereas you can get better ROI quicker with less headaches doing something like this.
And how could you get trained in all these services on your own? It'd be a nightmare. Yeah. And asbestos removalists are a great inquiry for us because they're just in one industry. There's nothing else for them. But they can move into these other services. So we actually sell the franchise at a lesser, I think it's 55, with 2 services. And then as you grow up in the business, you can add a service. So you pay an extra bit for training in and in the field and in the classroom.
And I think sorry, you go.
So mould is, as I said, looking at becoming a trade. Like the standard in a trade, like if that happened, we would have all these guys that have come to us, could be a bank teller, and we've trained them into having their own trade, their own license in some really premium services.
In an industry that is definitely going to grow. It's not going to go backwards. It's only going to go forward with the awareness and liability and all that sort of stuff. And the insurance companies, as they get to know who I go to more and more, start thinking gyms as opposed to whoever else they're using. But I think it's a great example using Gary's because I love hearing that story. Someone can come into that level of money and then they can just initiative and use all these business skills and they've got $1 million revenue business pretty quickly without all the headaches of if you do a QSR franchise where you've got head office always down your neck and you can't change anything at all, you can't use initiative, whereas with that you can literally take the vehicle and have a factory or have multiple staff and adding all these services and develop your own services as well. I think it's a great story.
And I mean, and as we say in gyms, if that's not your go, have a little business, where you're looking after yourself. You've got a few, a stack of equipment that you rent out. You do your odd jobs. It's a $10,000 a week business on your own.
Absolutely. Because I was surprised. Wasn't surprised, but when I interviewed Sean, somebody's come from Audi manager, which would have been good money, and then doing that, and then $250K revenue in his first year, and he said it's not me doing sales stuff. That literally says it. And for what he then paid for the franchise, you think, geez, there's not many businesses outside of these sort of franchises where you get that ROI, and you can do it as a sole trader as well. It's a really good as a start anyway, and you can build up what you want to do.
And you turn the key and it goes. At gyms, like get ready because it's going to go. And there's an initial, flurry of leads and all that sort of thing. But the old lead the horse to water, you've got to follow our system in terms of putting in the yards to do the local area marketing stuff. I think guys forget the brand is on their shirt. They turn up to a potential, business and they're walking in the door. They think, it's just Sam. But it's actually, they look at your brand and go, all right, what are you about? That gets the first foot in the door and it warms the conversation to talk about getting some more referral.
Well, you don't need to you don't really need to establish, who you are or your credibility or how long you've been around for and stuff like that. You've got 40 years of goodwill and brand equity of everyone who's done jobs before you with that. And if they've had a great experience with gyms prior, it just makes it a lot easier. I interviewed a franchisee before then, actually, a guy who was an independent mowing guy. And he tried the whole doing his own Google ads and this and that, and got no callbacks and stuff like that, whereas he's branded to Jim's Mowing, and people are seeing he's in the street and calling him up and trying to get his details from the call centre, and just he's branded as Jim's Mowing. And I think people underestimate the word brand. It can sound very, when people say the brand, what does it mean? It's a very wishy-washy, but I think that's what it's about, is about that. Gets your foot in the door, makes it a lot easier to convert, and I think it's just a great shortcut. And I think for this industry as well, where you need that trust, you definitely need trust. You want to know that person coming around is qualified. They've got all the insurances in place, and especially in a division like this, I think it's something where I can see getting to 100 franchisees. I know it's at 30 something now, but I think the opportunity is a great one, and I think people should be a bit more aware of it. Hopefully, about this one.
Yeah, and that's Gary's vision for sure. Yeah, 100 is his vision, and responsibly grow, and he's got the right attitude in terms of. He wants to help the customer. He doesn't want to frighten them into a removal or anything like that. And he wants to make the industry more efficient for insurers to keep people's premiums down and all that sort of stuff. So he's got some great ideas with that. And a franchisee a business owner in this mould remediation space or insurance space, you're limited to where you live. So, if you get a job, and it could be RACV, that are onto you, and they say, well, where can you scope? Oh, we're all over Australia.
Yes, because
the individual business owner can say that.
Yeah.
So then you can pick up, bigger opportunities because you've got guys wearing the same brand everywhere else.
Absolutely. I was going to say as well with the so I think where are the franchisees needed, or where are the numbers? Because I think is it more in Queensland at the moment? Because obviously Gary's based in Queensland.
More in southeast Melbourne, mate, where my region is.
Southeast Melbourne. Oh, okay, right. More in there.
No.
But we're around just like this is something that's relevant to all across Australia, and it's not something where it shouldn't be less than WA or anything. So there's a lot of opportunity everywhere.
Yeah, the major cities need more guys for sure.
Yeah.
And I know that because I've helped building inspection grow to 180 franchisees.
Yes.
I think. Once you hit sort of 50, your marketing fund is at a reasonable level where you can do a bit more. So I've been telling Gary and the guys that 50 mark is where we become more of a household name.
Yeah.
And when become more of a household name and a player, the guys can walk into a business and market themselves a little bit easier. So even the franchisees are telling me, when's the next guy coming in? They can see the growth opportunity with Gary and the team up there. But we needed, I dare say we needed a bit more up in northern Queensland. New South Wales, we have a decent presence. Queensland, southeast is going really well.
Yeah.
But the other states for sure.
South Australia, I presume WA.
South Australia, we only got one guy in South Australia.
Imagine up in Darwin as well.
100%. A couple of guys in Perth, but they could they loved asbestos in Perth. There's heaps of that around. And meth, to be honest. But
I remember back in the day in Perth, I used to live, and we used to go and we shouldn't have done this, but young kids chucking rocks through asbestos houses and stuff. Oh, yeah. It's everywhere, the abandoned houses and stuff. But that was definitely everywhere in Perth.
Yes.
And more in your region, obviously.
Yes, Southeast Melbourne.
Southeast Melbourne. How many franchisees do you have in yours?
I got 5 in there. Some good guys.
How many could you have?
I couldn't see us having. We could have 20 in the southeast of Melbourne if we really had it going. Want to responsibly grow, of course.
Yeah.
One of our newer guys, I'm actually chucking him on the plane with me to come up to Queensland, wanting to meet the team because he sort of came in the transition of the div. So I feel like he needs a bit more support. So he needs to go up there and see what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
So I think the goal that's happening in southeast Queensland, if that was projected throughout Australia, which Gary is working on doing, we're going to be a really strong division.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity because there's you guys change it. Obviously, JBI is the biggest in Australia in building inspections. People, I think, generally know building inspection Australia-wide, JBI is the leading franchise. I don't think anyone else can name anyone else. I think just the general name. I think this division here can do the same. I think that's the one where I see a massive opportunity because, as I said, the general punter might not know, who do I call for asbestos or hazmat? I think the gyms division, as a division, it could definitely get to 50 or 100. I think it's definitely there. And I think as a franchise opportunity, it's a great one. I was talking to Sean, the franchisee. It's just a little bit different. It's something where, I don't know how physical the job is, but it's if maybe you don't do the, gardening or mowing or cleaning or something like this, and you want a bit more problem solving and something like that, but still have a really great business where you can earn a lot of money as a sole trader and get fully trained in it and have something that's different every day. I think it's a really good option for anyone.
Yeah, there's science behind it.
Yeah.
You know, there's understanding chemicals, but there's also understanding the biohazard and the way that behaves.
Yes.
So a lot of guys are right into that.
A lot of learning, I think.
There's a few Hazmat nerds in our group that know everything about, type of microbiology and all that sort of stuff, which is great. They're really interested in what it's all about.
So what traits would you say someone should have, like as you said, maybe someone who's a bit more of a science background or someone who's a bit more detail-oriented? What type of person do you think, like characteristic-wise, would be good for this division?
If you've grown up in asbestos removal, you're a great candidate. And when those guys got trained by the mould remediators, they said, these guys are so easy to train. We were training glorified cleaners how to do mould, and these guys know how to control the environment. It's what we're trying to teach them. Yeah. So they're great for it. But, guys that are really interested in the science background and the climate and health of a home and those sort of things are right into it. We have ex-tradies that are just bored of what they do and want to get into this side of things. But, it's an interesting one. We've got people from all walks of life. The Aldi manager, sure, and I can think of Tony in South East that does all the services. He came from a chemical background, working in a chemical factory, just wanted to get out in the field. So, range of people. And the exciting thing for me is mould being a standard in Australia now is going to be taken a lot more seriously. Yeah. And there won't be so many variants of what you can do with it, and I think that's going to really hold us in good stead. And if you're someone who wants to scale up a business where you see that it's not just your hourly rate, you can actually make money from, drying equipment and things like that. There's some income streams.
Yeah, that's a great point because, if someone gets someone to do mowing or cleaning, they sort of got an hourly rate in their head of what they think they should cost. Whereas for you guys, I don't think
there's a limit to that.
Yeah, and the general punter wouldn't really know. Like we're paying for the expertise and all these other things as well, so you wouldn't have that many issues with that sort of thing with customers.
Yeah. Yeah, so, that's, we've got a few good examples of franchisees that have made a success of that now, and we want to project that with the rest of the guys and show them the way.
Yeah, I think it's a great division. I think it's a different type of work, like challenging sort of work. You can stay, you've got to constantly learn as well, and you can actually build your business, these almost, let's say, service modules with your trainings, and there's always going to be new stuff with this division in terms of technology and what you can do. And, the earning potential, from what you pay for the actual franchise to what you can do in the first year is really remarkable, I think, for the first year business. Plus, you have that insurance and all that other stuff like hospitals and stuff, which you mentioned. So really good division. It should be a lot more than 30. But when I'm talking back to myself now, I'm just thinking it's just such a great opportunity for anyone. Yeah. So with being a trainer, so you've seen many people come through the training over the years. What would you sort of say to people, like, they might watch this and then they've watched 30 things or whatever, but they still don't have the confidence to maybe do it? What would you sort of advise them about from your experience of who does well in gyms, or maybe some things they should ask themselves?
Yeah, well, look, if you're thinking about starting a new business or wanting to get out of bed for yourself, not for your boss, that's the main thing, and that's the reason why I got into business. Compare doing this on your own or doing it with a group. And the way you do that, and most franchisors are excellent at it, you got to meet the franchisor to see if he's worth his salt, because you're going to deal with them or her. But we let you talk to franchisees, so get that feedback from them. And this orientation training that we do, the 3 days, which is on at the moment, the guys sitting at the board with the text are people that have made it themselves. You know what I mean? So it's down to earth. I love that fact. I couldn't do it if it wasn't, So get that feeling of, is this for me? Because you've got to buy into the system. You can't fight against the system. If you've seen the system and it doesn't feel right, walk away. It's not worth it. Yeah. And I think you've got to be, the most successful franchisees are the ones that get involved. They go to every meeting. If they get a proactive call from the franchisor, they sit down and have a think about it and have a chat to them. Yeah. So those things are really important in Jim's group. And you've got to believe in the brand. You've got to have confidence in the brand and what it does for you. And I think they're the most successful franchisees. And I just love the fact I like being. I've got a bit of a sporting background, so I like the camaraderie of being involved in a group. Not just in your division, other divisions. Like, had the family day yesterday.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
and bit of a drama with the rain, but still catching up with everyone and having a chat. I ended up in the mowing tent, just having a couple of quiet beers with them, and they were just sharing their experience, and we are a bit of a family here at gyms. I really feel that, and I think that can only get better as divisions go. And I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's what a podcast is about. When I first turned up to gyms, I reckon we're a bit siloed. I reckon the divs didn't talk to each other much. Yeah. Now it's a lot different, you know, and that's really great. And you get all that benefit as a franchisee, you know. I think when I ran a business, and even when I was in the business of my old man, I'd still sit on the pillow at night staring at the ceiling going, how am I going to fix that? Now, in a group, even as a franchisor, I can ring my div, but franchisees can pick up the phone, ring their franchisor, and it's probably a problem we had before. Yep. So, you know, we can fix it for them straight away. And problems are the things that stop a business, not anything else. So having that support from a franchisor is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, from interviewing a lot of franchisors, you guys don't just know your business, you know everyone's business that you're dealing with. So if you've got 100 franchisees or 70 franchisees or whatever you are, you're talking to 70 different sort of business setups all the time, and you've heard probably everything. So when someone comes to your region, you've dealt with hundreds of businesses over the years, so you've got that experience. And I think you can't really buy that, you know. And a lot of people, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. A lot of people hear this term called mastermind, right? So it's a very wanky term, but like they pay 10 grand a month to do a business mastermind. They jump on a Zoom or whatever. I'm thinking, we've been doing that for 40 years. Yeah. Your meeting's a mastermind. Exactly. You can call your franchisor for a really small money. Whereas people pay externally to gyms, they pay thousands and thousands of dollars for these masterminds just to get them with another 30 business owners. Yep. Whereas with gyms, you have that included with what we do.
You're spot on. I reckon, I look up to 60 guys now. I reckon 2 out of 3 problems that a franchisee comes to me, I go ring Bill or ring Jeff or ring, because they had the problem before and they're happy to take a call.
Yeah,
I solve 1 out of 3. The 2 out of 3 is other franchisees that are happy to chat to him.
Yeah,
because the other franchisees want you to succeed. They don't want you turning up to a job with a crook look on your face and not doing a great job. They want you to succeed because you're wearing their brand. So they're going to put in the time. They don't see that as a hassle.
Yeah, it's very counterintuitive. A lot of people externally go, oh, there's so many gyms in an area or whatever, but it's the complete opposite. They want you to do well, as you said, because
100%.
What you do affects them. You know, if you do a bad job, it affects them. So they want you to do well, and then everyone knows there's plenty of work going around if more people are happy and doing well. But I think the support, like we talk about support, and a lot of other franchises will talk about support, but I think the gym support system is very, very unique. And we're a bit silent with ours because we only sort of live in gym land and what we do. But I know a little bit about other franchises and stuff, and I can safely say, very confident, our support system is probably one of the best, if not the best, especially in the home services industry. Yeah, that's just me. I'm biased. I work for gyms. But I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of franchisees, and I know a little bit about external brands. And I just think we underestimate sometimes how good the support is for what we do.
Well, let's be honest. Jim, when you come to the orientation training, you get a bit of a stiff arm from Jim saying what he wants you to do with customers and looking after them. Yeah, and absolutely, the franchisees adapt to that. But he's the same, if not more, to the franchisors looking after franchisees.
Well, when we're doing the interview, he actually opened the door. Then he's probably come to see me about a problem with something. So that's what he.
Was he there? Okay.
Yeah, that's what he looked at. Walked away. It's probably a problem for me or something.
No, but he's got some serious ethos on how franchisors should be looking after their franchise. And I probably, I made a few mistakes in the early days, but now I totally respect why he was quite harsh on me in those days, because I do it automatically now. Yeah. And I have franchisees that stick around, and that's what you want.
I think it's the beauty as well, because it's a privately owned company. We don't have... Jim owns the company, so it's his standards, it's his ethos, and goes top down. We're not owned by... There's no public equity money, and there's some manager brought in from the overseas, and they've got all this middle management. And the franchisee, as you know, is the priority, and then the franchisor. So I think that goes a long way with how the support's built up, because I think the support system, we don't give ourselves enough of a rap for it, but I think the franchisors, what they do with support is bloody brilliant compared to a lot of others. And I think that's a big thing when someone investigates a franchise. As you said, you do have to get along with your franchisor when you do that investigation, because it's a really serious decision, because if it's 70 grand or 55 grand, you want to know who you're dealing with and make sure you do a lot of research.
Well, you're stuck with each other, aren't you?
So you are. 10 years, 15 years, it's a relationship, and that's the way it should be,
No, but the wins are more than the losses, I tell you. So, I personally get a kick out of that now, seeing franchisees succeed. And, probably 13 years of being here, I can tell what a franchisee needs most of the time. You know what I mean? Like, we're all humans.
You've been here for 13 years, so you're running the same as me. Obviously done a lot more better financially than me, being an employee still. But I was going to say, so how have you seen the gyms change over 13 years?
Well, the big one is, well, I'm giving you a pat on the back, but the way we've used the branding fund and the way we've got out there on social media, mate, you got Jim out of his skin a bit. You know, a lot of people see him a lot more, which I love. So the way people see us as a group now, I think, is brilliant. But the way divisions are talking to each other is something that I've found absolutely has improved out of sight. And personally, in our division, we've become a household name eventually. You know, so at the start, handing out cards, gyms do this, do they? You know, it's probably where Hazmat is, but over time now, I've seen us become a household name, which is really pleasing.
We got the formula, and JBI. To you guys' credit, you built it from scratch. You're number one in Australia easily. 180 franchise locations in in 11 years or 12 years. That's not easy. Like, not many brands outside of gyms have done that at all. Most franchise systems don't get past 20. So to even get past 20 is an achievement. So it's amazing what you guys have done. I think the divisional side, people don't understand. So the divisions aren't all owned by Jim. There's different people like Sam and Paul and everyone else who own their own division, and they're responsible for what they do. And there's regular divisional meetings now. I think the content as well. I think other divisions listen to other people from the content, so they see a face and they're a bit more inclined to deal with them as well. But it's been it is a network, and that's the thing. Like, we can truly sort out a problem for someone, every aspect of the home. I don't think anyone else can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I don't think Jim just lets anyone hang a shingle out and call themselves gyms anymore. You've got to prove yourself as a division to be, like a really good concept that would suit the services in gyms. That's improved as well, I think, too. Absolutely.
So, and a bit of collaborative marketing and stuff like that works well in the group. So, it's been a great ride for me, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'm now sort of energised by Hazmat. Sort of, I can see what they're doing, and I can really see that as a division that one day might rival Jim's building inspections in the future. So we'll see how we go.
So there we go. That'd be quite an achievement to get to 180, because it's a massive number. And Jim JBI, in Australia and New Zealand, it's definitely the biggest, and that's not easy. Especially in 12 years, what you guys have done has been brilliant, because you've literally built that from scratch for a division which was not associated as a service with Jim's mum, Jim's cleaning, as you know from the early days.
Well, it's a white collar sort of service. We didn't know if it was to be perceived. Well, the biggest competitor was Archie Centre, which was architects that walked in with a suit.
Okay.
And we said, no, we'll get in the floor and we'll check in the roof and everything, and that caused a bit of a stir. But now it's, everyone does that, and our reporting systems people are caught up with our reporting systems a little bit.
They copied you, though. That's the thing. You guys have done all the initiative and done all the innovation, and they've just copied you and make it a bit easy, which I think that's a good credit to you guys as well. It's, trying to imitate you guys, and you see that popping up, but a lot of it's basically replicating what you guys have done as well. So don't fall for the copycats.
Paul's had to build a new app, and he's just pouring money into it.
Yeah.
But it's, the guys, as building inspectors, are in the right way demanding. They want a good system. They want to deliver a really good service to customers, and they want to be innovative. And I see that in both divisions. In the Hazmat divisions, the technology they're trying to use to make a client's life easier.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So,
I've interviewed a lot of franchisees in both divisions, and they're very, very professional. And you can see why property managers and people like using the divisions, because it's just extremely professional service. And you've got guys who are 20-year previous builders or engineers and stuff. And they're getting access to that person for a pretty affordable price as well.
Yeah. And business-to-business relationships, agents, property managers, accountants, conveyancers, they would rather refer a brand. Because they can keep them at arm's length. If they stuff up, they've got someone to ring at gyms. If I was Sam's Inspections or Sam's crime scene cleanups, it'd be a different story. Like that's so. Those two divisions actually, because we survive on business to business relationships, the gyms brand suits us.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, Sam. Realistically, someone likes the sound of Hazmat. What sort of time frame should they look at? What's the investment? And then maybe you just want to talk real quickly for the process.
Yeah, so they start the franchises at 55 grand. So that includes all their startup costs to get into asbestos and mould remediation. Or if they come as an expert in another one of the other services, we adapt that. The process is pretty quick. We can get them on the road sort of in 2 or 3 months. But we're not in a hurry with you. We just want you to find your way. Pick up 131546 and have a chat to a franchisor, and then they take you through that process. We want to make sure you're right for us and we're right for you. But once you get down to Jim's group orientation, we've got a couple of guys in there at the moment.
Yep.
They feel comfortable with the system, then they follow the process to get trained. But there's a pretty intense in the field training and induction. Obviously, it's pretty serious sort of services. But I can't see how you get trained any differently. Can get trained any better in trying to get out on your own. It'd be very difficult.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is because I think it's just such a great opportunity for someone who wants something a little bit different as well, but can make great money, and you can potentially have $1 million revenue business pretty quickly if you do this sort of thing. You've got a lot of proactive nature about you, and I don't think for that price you've mentioned, there's many franchise options out there that can offer that sort of return. So it's a really good opportunity for anyone.
Yeah, and the existing franchisees, probably that's what we're doing at the moment, is changing their mindset to realise that they could scale to that size.
Yeah.
They're probably thinking a little bit too insular, so we're trying to show them, hey, here's someone who's made that happen. Come for the ride. Let's get you up there.
But even if you don't want to scale, I think what blew my mind was Sean, first year, $250K revenue business,
brilliant franchisee.
And you can try and work out, I'm not going to say the cost or what it structures and stuff he's got, but you probably equivalent corporate job. I don't know what it would be, but it'd be a pretty high equivalent corporate job in terms of what you actually take home pay. Plus you get the flexibility. In your first year, plus you get the flexibility and stuff.
You don't have a business where you can do that. Most businesses out on their own, they're eating baked beans on toast for 3 years.
Exactly.
And now they're starting to get to that point. I mean, he would have reassessed his goals after 12 months.
Yeah.
I'm sure his business...
I reassessed my goals after doing that interview, don't worry about that. When I heard that, I was thinking, gee whiz. But just for people, if it does sound too good to be true, I just implore you, do your research and watch all this stuff, but also call and speak to the franchisees and you can get a list. And I think that's the great thing with us. We openly provide the list. I've actually heard stories where other franchise systems don't provide a list unless someone pays them a $5K deposit or a $2K deposit. So with us, we proactively provide you with the list.
We do... orientation training, pre-planning workshop where you're doing business plan, cash flow, path to becoming a franchisee, an onboarding session, and anywhere in between there, you're doing observation days with the guys before you make any commitment. And I think the guy in Sunshine Coast is already coming to the induction day on Thursday up in Brisbane where I'll be.
Awesome.
And, we show our cards. We're not about, sort of, you got to pay this before you do that. The thing about that is too, that helps our selection process. So our selection process is very much about, finding the right person. So we want to expose you to all of that before you purchase the franchise. The first interview, we probably sell it to you a bit, but after that you pick yourself. And that's the way we want to do it. And we have long-term franchisees for that reason.
Awesome. So we'll leave it there, Sam. You've probably spoken for 5 hours in total today, but the 3 hours in training, probably a couple of hours here as well. So if you are interested, guys, please call 131-546 or just chuck an inquiry online on jims.net or the Hazmat website. Just do a Google search and hopefully we'll see you in training.
Thanks, Joel.
Thank you.